although it seems to just be confined to Sentinel Ridge, there haven't been too many outside that I remember in Area A. Not to this extent, like 14, but I've walked through there periodically since it was all gravel, and it was, well, it still is a big gravel pile, so pretty much all the lots have been had an excavator on them at least twice, so all kinds of issues, but I'll move the recommendation.
Moved by Director Davis, seconded by Director Nicholson. Any further comments, discussion? Director Dory.
Yes, along the lines of what Mr. Conway was saying, a few years ago in Cowichan Bay, there was a multifamily building built, and there was a huge discussion on how you measure the height of a building. Yeah, the average natural grade, but when they get onto these properties, everything's all messed up, piles of gravel and everything all over the place. And whether they fill in around the house or whether they excavate the foundation down inside, you know, the building inspector is the one that should probably make the judgment. If it's 2 stories, I don't think I would worry too much, but if it's 2 stories plus, then I think you should probably require a height survey, because I know we had one house in Saltaire where we made them chop the top off. So we're gonna have to take the peak off to get down, because there was a number of people that were complaining about the height of this building was blocking view. Anyway, so that's the issue, and I think if it's going to be up to the building inspectors to see that it's done properly. They're the ones on the ground. They're the ones that can make the judgment, and that's the way it has to be, I think.
Mr. Blackwell.
Thank you. Through you to Director Dory. Should the CVRD be able to acquire the authority to approve subdivisions, so the approving officer function, then the associated subdivision servicing bylaw will establish criteria at the time of subdivision that will include, or should include, or normally includes, establishing elevations before the actual subdivision happens. So as part of the subdivision design sets out all of the elevations of natural grade on each lot before the subdivision occurs, before it's registered at the Land Title Office. Because we don't do that, and that rests with the ministry, we don't necessarily have access or influence over how they proceed with the approval of larger subdivisions, i.e. more than just a handful of lots.
Director Davis.
I seem to remember that Area B being measured to the finished grade level, so if you build the house over height, you can just add some more dirt around the outside. Is that true?
Mr. Conway.
Yes, that is in fact true, and I think that is one of the issues that will hopefully be addressed in the harmonized zoning bylaw.
Thank you. And I just make a brief comment that, we seem to have this rash and cluster of overheights in Area A right now. And I'm a little disappointed that given the technology and the abilities and the, certified professionals that are doing the work, that there would be the type of confusion that there will. I'm not going to slag the development community the way our general manager did, but the reality is that they've got the abilities to do what's required here within the regulations. So if we need that within the subdivision servicing bylaw, we need that work to be accurate. It should be accurate, and we shouldn't be seeing so many of these variances. So apologies, Mr. Blackwell. Would you read the recommended resolution for us, please?
Thank you. The resolution before you is that it be recommended to the board that application number 01-A-17 DVP at 653 Sentinel Road to vary section 10.9 sub 4 of zoning bylaw number 3520 to increase the maximum permitted height of a principal residential building from 7.5 meters to 7.97 meters be approved.
Any further discussion? I'll call the question. Director Dory.
Yes, how much did this variance permit cost? So these people are going to pay more to do their house than they would be if they didn't have to get a variance. And whether we should have two different prices, a price for a variance before the house is built or a higher price for a variance after the house is built. You know, if it's so that there's a penalty there other than just getting to chop the top off their house.
Mr. Blackwell.
There are various options with respect to how issues like this can be addressed. In some jurisdictions, there's essentially a culture where the zoning requirements are the zoning requirements. There's no wiggle room unless there is a significant hardship that can be demonstrated. But oversights are not accommodated, and the builders have to solve the problem themselves. So that's one extreme end of the spectrum, one that you've just spoken about, in fact, in Saltaire. I think the preferred approach is to work with the development community, the builders and so on and so forth, to find a collaborative approach to solving these issues, to make it easier on the folks in the industry, the homeowners that are trying to develop these projects and so forth.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And I'd just like to take a minute to apologize to Mr. Blackwell and the committee and the people watching. I think my unfortunate use of the word slag was completely inappropriate. Critiquing our development community is one thing, but yeah, I shouldn't have said what I did, and apologize to everyone here. Moving on to the next item. We have Mr. Munn again, 668 Sentinel Drive.
There we go. Good afternoon. Now, again, this is a variance application for height in the Sentinel Ridge subdivision. I forgot to mention before, the applicant is here if you want to ask him any questions. And in this case, it's a slightly different reason for the height variance, but as you can see, it's a very similar, or yeah, it's across the street from the other one. So there's the location of this lot. The main difference is, I don't know if I can use the, yeah, I can, the pointer here. We had the other lot we just talked about was up here, and it was lower down toward the, there's a creek and a ravine here, and it was up against that area. This one is on more of the top of a hill here. So, and in fact, nobody really looks over this lot. It basically looks over all the other lots. So that's the main difference in the siting there. Again, it's in the same zone with the site. It's a 7.5 meter height restriction. And as you can see here, that's the house up on this rise. You can see there's been significant regrading around the site. That photo on the right just shows what's called the benchmark elevation, which the surveyor provides as a guide for the builder. It is not the same thing necessarily as the average grade, as is noted on drawings, or the average existing natural grade, which is in the definition of height. This is the rear of the existing house, and the view from basically that perspective out toward the Gulf Islands. And you can see it's not, as well as nobody really looking over it, it doesn't really look, it's not barely blocked by anybody else. So what was the issue here? In terms of height, you can see that unfortunately, the elevation provided in the plan is adjacent to the garage. So the building height is just over a bit, but the ridge is noted at the top of the drawing. And the plan says 7.3 meters in height from the main floor elevation to the ridge of the roof. The survey indicates just slightly less. And the average grade in this case is the same via the survey or on the plan. You can see on the right, if you look on the yellow, it says 93.58. And the main floor elevation is almost the same in the survey as well as the plan. So how could this go wrong? And likely was a drawing error, because when you look at the difference on the scale drawing, this is a drawing done in imperial, 1/4 inch to a foot, and it's noted as 1 foot 8 inches difference between the garage slab and the main floor elevation, which approximately gives you about 0.17 meters, about 6 inches or so, for that line between average grade and main floor elevation. In actual fact, the difference is 0.77 meters, which is a big difference. So you're going from, a fraction of a foot to over a couple feet. So I think that's where the error lies. And again, as I said, the issue with neighbors in terms of height and so on is not significant, so we've recommended approval.
Any questions for staff? Director Dory.
You mentioned that the garage level was at a certain level. Did it step up to the regular part of the house up?
Actually, you can see this on the photos.
So,
Sorry. There, you can see that the garage is on the right, and the rest, and the main house is towards the left.
yeah. So it looks like it does step up a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
So when you're measuring the height of the house, you're measuring from the garage to the top of the house.
Well,
So
you're measuring.
stepping over.
The garage happens to be a little bit lower in grade, but your measurement is from that point where is known as average grade here, but in the bylaw average existing natural grade. So that would come back to 93.58 meters, right up to the height, which is over around 110 up here. So this is the garage height, and this is the house height.
Any further questions for staff? Turn to the director for the area. Move the recommendation. Any further discussion? Oh, Mr. Blackwell, would you read the recommendation, please?
Thank you. The recommendation before you is that it be recommended to the board that application number 02-A-17 DVP at 668 Sentinel Drive to vary section 10.4 sub 4 of zoning bylaw number 3520 to increase the maximum permitted height of a principal residential building from 7.5 meters to 8.06 meters be approved.
Director Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just when I walked by yesterday, I had a look, and the house whose view of the water would be blocked looked to me like it didn't have any windows on the water side, so don't have any problem.
Thank you. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Ms. Rondo, 649 Sentinel Drive.